Imagine being like one of the most searched names on the entire internet. You have this fiercely loyal fan base tracking your every move.
Right.
You're writing a deeply personal daily diary that's read by thousands of people, and you're starring in these multi-million-dollar, highly publicized media productions. You're literally everywhere.
Hmm.
And then you just unplug your router, walk away, and vanish so completely that for the next decade, no one can find a single digital trace of you.
It honestly sounds like the setup for a thriller,
Right.
right? But it is actually, it's one of the most masterfully executed media exits of the entire early internet era.
Yeah, which is just wild to wrap my head around today.
Exactly. I mean, we live in a world where public figures monetize every single second of their lives. Even their retirements are these like highly choreographed content drops.
Yeah.
So to be at the absolute peak of a highly valuable, controversial industry and just pull the plug, it requires an astonishing level of discipline.
Which is exactly why we are tracking her down today. So in this deep dive, we are exploring the career of Melissa Meadows.
Though you probably know her well, if you know the internet history of the 2000s under her massively famous alias, Austin Kincaid.
Right. And we have a huge stack of sources here to go through. We've got biographical profiles, industry databases, and a bunch of retrospective articles.
Yeah, it's a lot of material.
It is. And our mission today is to trace this unbelievable trajectory in the adult entertainment industry. We're looking at a career that starts with deliberate misdirection, pivots into this absolute masterclass in demographic rebranding, hits peak critical acclaim, and then just boom, abruptly goes completely dark.
It's a total vanishing act.
It really is. And we are going to track exactly how she pulled that off. But first, a quick reminder to you guys, if you like what I do and want to support me, you can help out with a donation on Revolut or PayPal. And on Patreon, I have a different kind of biography and exclusive content waiting for you. All the links you need are right here in the description. Thanks so much for all the support. All right, so let's just dive right into the timeline. Because to understand how she built the Austin Kincaid empire, we kind of have to look at the incredibly messy, conflicting records of how she actually started.
Yeah, and the word messy might be a bit of an understatement here.
Oh, for sure.
Because when you look at early digital media records, especially in fields geared toward mature audiences, documentation is notoriously unreliable anyway.
Right. It's always a bit sketchy.
Exactly. But with her, the discrepancies seem highly, highly intentional. And it starts with the most basic fact of her existence, which is her birth year.
Yeah, so most of the reliable databases state she was born in Asheville, North Carolina on January 14th, 1980. We know she has part Cherokee heritage, and her early adult life sounds pretty typical for a lot of performers. She was working as a waitress, she did some dancing and feature entertainment, and she participated in magazine shoots and glamour modeling. But buried in all these sources, there is one highly peculiar record that lists her birth year as 1986.
Right. And we really have to view that single altered digit through the lens of early 2000s media marketing.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, changing 1980 to 1986 isn't just about vanity, right? It is strategic demographic repositioning. Because if she was born in 1986, it means she would have turned 18 in 2004.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. In the adult entertainment sector, the narrative of the brand new 18-year-old discovery is treated as a premium currency. I mean, studios practically print money with that storyline.
That makes total sense. And 2004 is a very suspicious year for her to magically turn 18, right?
Very suspicious.
Because in her later interviews, she repeatedly claimed that 2004 was the year of her very first film shoot. Like, she actually went on the record stating she debuted that year for a major online studio called Naughty America. And she also claimed she had never performed certain highly specific niche types of mature content. But, the internet never forgets.
It really doesn't.
The databases prove she actually debuted 3 years earlier in 2001.
But under a completely different name.
Right, under the alias Veronica Knight. And if you pull up the records for the Veronica Knight series, she is doing exactly the types of scenes she later swore she never touched.
Yeah.
So she is actively trying to wipe 3 years of professional history off the map. And when I first read this, I tried to figure out a good comparison, Like, I didn't want to use the old cliche of a pop star trying to hide their indie records. This feels way more mechanical than that. It's like corporate restructuring.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. If a Fortune 500 company has a subsidiary that is failing or carrying a lot of toxic debt, they don't just tweak the packaging. They bankrupt the subsidiary, spin off a whole new LLC, and launch a completely clean startup.
Exactly.
So she essentially bankrupted the Veronica Knight brand so she could launch Austin Kincaid as a completely new corporate entity. But my question is, why do that when literally anyone with a dial-up connection can verify her past?
Well, because in 2001, she fundamentally lacked agency. Performers entering controversial fields, especially young women in their early 20s, they often have zero control over their early output.
That's unfortunately very true.
Right. Studios assign them names, push them into genres that really don't fit their long-term goals, and most importantly, the studios own all the distribution rights.
Yeah, the rights are everything.
Exactly. But by 2004, the internet landscape was changing fast. She realized that to actually survive, she couldn't just be another studio employee. She had to become the CEO of her own image.
Wow, yeah.
So distancing herself from Veronica Knight wasn't necessarily about shame. It was about taking control of the steering wheel. She was essentially telling the industry, you don't define me based on what you made me do in 2001. I define me.
That makes total sense. So she adopts the name Austin Kincaid along with a bunch of variations like Austin Kincaid, Mrs. Austin, to establish this brand new clean slate. But erasing the past only solves half her problem, right? Because now she's a new face in an incredibly saturated market.
Very saturated.
Yeah, the mid-2000s internet is just exploding with free digital content. To actually survive this rebrand, she needs a monopoly on a specific demographic.
And she finds that monopoly through a highly, highly specific physical profile.
Right.
So the records list her at 5'2", which is about 156 centimeters, weighing 48 kilograms. She was a brunette with brown eyes, and she had a distinctly curvaceous, glamorous figure.
Yeah, she definitely stood out.
She did. And she looked at those attributes and made this brilliant, calculated pivot. Instead of competing with, thousands of other women for the generic girl next door roles, she leaned entirely into mature-themed productions.
She targeted the older woman niche.
Exactly.
Which creates one of the most bizarre casting paradoxes I have ever seen in these sources.
Oh, the dual casting.
Yes. She famously snagged roles in a young adult-themed movie and a mature-themed movie in the exact same week.
Which is wild.
It's crazy, and she is only in her mid to late 20s at this time. Kincaid gave an interview where she very humbly brushed this off, claiming there was just a massive industry shortage of performers over the age of 35.
Right.
So she said studios were desperate and just threw her in those roles to fill the gap. I have to call nonsense on that. That is totally false modesty.
Oh, I agree completely. It's a huge oversimplification on her part. I mean, while there might have been a slight demographic gap, we really cannot ignore the economics of broadband internet in 2006.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, the transition from physical DVDs to high-speed digital streaming meant that the demand for highly specific niche content was suddenly outpacing the supply of performers.
So it was a volume issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She didn't just passively fill a vacancy because studios were desperate. She recognized a massive economic vacuum, and she weaponized her versatility.
She is basically the acting equivalent of a switch hitter in baseball. Like, she can step up to the plate and hit left-handed for the young adult market on Tuesday, and then hit right-handed for the mature market on Thursday. That isn't just filling a gap, that is dominating the field.
It absolutely is. Her all-American glamorous look allowed her to transcend those age brackets entirely. And by the late 2000s, her name wasn't just associated with mature-themed content. Her name essentially became the search term for it.
Wow.
Yeah. She partnered with these massive digital-first companies like Bang Bros and Brazzers, who were actively revolutionizing how media was distributed online.
They were the pioneers of that era.
They really were. And she positioned herself at the exact intersection of a rising digital medium and a highly requested genre.
And right as she secures that intersection and her success story just goes into overdrive, I want to jump in real quick and say, if you're enjoying the vibe, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. It really helps us out. Because this strategic rebranding is what catapults her to the absolute top of the critical and commercial ladder. I mean, the sheer volume of her output during this time is just staggering.
Staggering is the perfect word. It is the definition of a prolific peak. The databases indicate she amassed over 150 unique film credits.
Unbelievable.
And when you factor in archive footage and compilations, that number inflates to 216 appearances.
That's a massive body of work.
It is, but the true turning point isn't actually the quantity, it's the industry validation.
Right. Let's talk about 2006 and 2007 because those were undeniably her peak years. Let's talk about the AVN Awards.
Oh, yeah.
For anyone unfamiliar with the mechanics of this industry, the AVN Awards are essentially the Oscars of the adult entertainment world. They are the absolute benchmark for critical success.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2007, Austin Kincaid earned 4 AVN nominations. To go from being totally unrecognized by the establishment to pulling 4 nods in a single year, that is a massive leap.
It's a monumental shift. It signals that she is no longer just a commercially viable search term, you know?
Yeah.
She is being recognized by her peers for her actual performance craft.
Yeah, she gets nominated for Best Actress for her lead role in To Die For, Best Supporting Actress for Fade to Black 2, and she picks up 2 separate nominations for Best Group Performance.
And she immediately leverages this critical acclaim into mainstream adjacent crossovers.
Right.
She gets cast in massive high-budget productions like Pirates and Operation Desert Stormy.
And those were huge deals at the time.
Massive. Those specific titles are crucial to understanding her status. In the mid-2000s, the adult industry was desperately trying to cross over into mainstream pop culture.
Yeah, I remember that era.
Right. They were funding projects with literally millions of dollars, elaborate sets, special effects, and genuine narrative plot lines.
It wasn't just cheap video anymore.
Exactly. So casting Kincaid in those films meant the studios viewed her as a tentpole star. They fully trusted her to carry a major financial investment.
But amidst the massive budgets and the award sweeps, there is this fascinating undercurrent to her success. And it was the unique way she handled her audience.
Oh, her fan engagement.
Yes, because if you look at other major stars of that era, they were largely untouchable. They existed on DVD covers and maybe showed up at conventions once a year. Kincaid, on the other hand, personally returned emails from her fans. She was highly active on message boards. She even maintained a daily diary on her personal website, which she operated under the Fantasy Girl label.
And this is where we see her true genius in brand building,
Right.
well before the term influencer even existed.
Right.
Today, a celebrity has a whole team of social media managers sanitizing their tweets and manufacturing engagement. Kincaid was doing it all manually.
That must have taken hours every day.
Oh, absolutely. And her diary wasn't just promotional fluff either. It was remarkably frank and really well written. She would break the fourth wall, discussing the mundane exhaustion of being on a set, the logistics of her travel, or simply admitting when she was having a bad mental health day.
I read some of the summaries of those entries, and they are incredibly intimate.
Very.
But honestly, just thinking about the mechanics of that makes me exhausted.
Same here.
I mean, imagine being a one-woman customer service department for thousands of intensely devoted, highly demanding fans in a heavily stigmatized industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure.
It raises a massive red flag for me. Was this radical transparency the secret weapon that built her empire, or was it basically a ticking time bomb for severe burnout?
I think it was undeniably both.
Yeah.
In a field that is heavily criticized for being transactional, impersonal, and sometimes even exploitative, she made her audience feel humanized.
She gave him a real connection.
Exactly. By answering those emails and writing those vulnerable diary entries, she fostered a parasocial bond that went way beyond standard fandom. Her audience felt fiercely, fiercely protective of her.
Which is great for loyalty, but...
But the psychological toll of absorbing the emotions, the demands, and the attention of that many people without any kind of corporate buffer is just completely unsustainable. When you are the sole architect of your brand's emotional labor, you eventually run out of bricks.
That's a great way to put it. And that brings us right to the breaking point. Because just as she is cementing her legacy with blockbusters and award nominations, that very same diary that made her so beloved starts sending up distress flares.
Yeah, and when you condition an audience to expect radical transparency, any deviation from that norm feels like a total earthquake.
Exactly. So in February 2008, a highly cryptic, deeply apologetic entry appeared in her diary. It completely lacked her usual upbeat tone and strongly suggested she was navigating some severe personal turbulence. She didn't specify what was happening, but she made it very clear she was struggling.
And immediately after that post, the updates just started slowing down. The direct line to Austin Kincaid was breaking up.
Yeah.
Which perfectly illustrates the danger of the parasocial bond. When a heavily engaged public figure suddenly withdraws, it creates a massive information vacuum.
And people hate a vacuum.
They do. The fans feel entitled to an explanation because they feel like they're losing a real friend. And when they don't get the facts, The internet immediately attempts to fill the void with speculation.
Boy, did it ever. The rumor mill went into total overdrive.
It was crazy.
The most prominent whisper was that she had undergone a sudden radical religious conversion. But I want to be very, very clear here for the listeners. Our sources explicitly note that absolutely zero solid evidence of a religious conversion ever emerged.
Right. Nothing was ever proven.
It was just the internet grasping at straws to explain why their favorite star was pulling away. What we do know for a fact is that she initiated a sudden hiatus, effectively retiring in 2009, and relocated all the way back to her hometown of Asheville.
And walking away in 2009 is an astounding decision.
It really is.
She is stepping off the escalator right before it reaches the penthouse.
Yeah.
She has mainstream adjacent visibility, she has the awards, she has the monopoly on her niche, and she just leaves the money on the table to go back to North Carolina. It speaks to a profound need to decompress.
She doesn't stay completely gone, though, right? The databases show a brief, highly limited return in 2010. She works sporadically over the next couple of years, but the volume is just a fraction of her mid-2000s peak. It feels less like a comeback and more like, I don't know, tying up loose ends.
That's a good observation.
Because in 2013, she officially concludes her career, and when she closes the door, she locks it, throws away the key, and pades over the road.
Which is incredible. The modern digital era makes disappearing incredibly difficult.
Oh, almost impossible.
We leave digital footprints just by buying a coffee or logging into a streaming service. So for someone whose literal face and name were searched millions of times, the complete lack of documentation on her post-2013 life is a masterclass in privacy enforcement.
It really is. Usually public figures transition.
Right.
They launch a podcast, they write a memoir, they pivot to producing, or they at least keep like a private Instagram account that eventually gets leaked. She left nothing.
Nothing at all.
There is no social media presence under her stage name. There are no "where are they now" tell-all interviews. There isn't even a confirmed residence on public record. It is a total, uncompromising digital blackout.
And it forces us to reevaluate what we actually think of as power in the media industry.
How so?
Well, we usually define power as having the loudest voice or the biggest platform.
Sure.
But her blackout suggests that true power is the ability to reclaim your private identity.
Right.
For over a decade, she essentially leased Austin Kincaid to the public. She gave them her image, her diary, her time, and a massive amount of emotional labor.
Yeah, she gave them everything.
Right. So the absolute silence since 2013 is an active, aggressive assertion of boundaries. She didn't just fade away, she consciously reclaimed Melissa Meadows.
It is an unbelievable trajectory when you look at the whole map. I mean, she starts as a waitress in North Carolina, gets swept into an early misdirected debut as Veronica Knight, and realizes she has to take the wheel. She executes a ruthless corporate restructuring of her own identity, launching Austin Kincaid. She weaponizes her physical profile to exploit an economic vacuum in the broadband internet boom, completely dominating the mature demographic.
Yep.
Then she sweeps award nominations, crosses over into multi-million-dollar productions, and builds an intensely demanding parasocial empire through radical transparency. And when the psychological weight becomes too much, she executes a flawless, self-directed exit.
It's brilliant,
Right.
and it challenges the core entitlement of modern audiences.
I'll see more about that.
Well, we operate under this assumption that if we buy a performer's content or if we read their diary, we somehow purchase shares in their actual life.
Right, like we own a piece of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We demand endless access and expect them to explain every pivot, every hiatus, and every retirement. Her story serves as a brilliant counter-narrative to all of that.
It really does.
It reminds us that the ultimate luxury, and perhaps the ultimate act of self-preservation, is the ability to simply close the door without owing the public a single word of explanation. It leaves every consumer of media with a lingering question, really.
Which is?
When does our right to know end, and a performer's absolute right to anonymity begin?
A perfect thought to end on. Think about the creators you follow and ask yourself where that boundary really lies. Keep wondering, keep questioning, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.